गणानां त्वा गणपतिगुं हवामहे कविं कवीनामुपमश्रवस्तमं ज्येष्ठराजं ब्रह्मणां ब्रह्मणस्पत आनश्वन्वन्नोतिभिः सीदसादनं श्रीमहागणाधिपतये नमः। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। Atmaswarupa Bandhugana. We'll say the verse one time. I will tell the entire line. Pratasmarami hrudi samsphuradātmatattvam. Satchit sukham paramaham sagatin turiyam. Yat swapna jagara sushuptamavaiti nityam. Tad brahma nishkalamaham nacha bhuta sanghaha. So pratasmarami, I contemplate early in the morning on Atma Tattvam, on that reality. Tattva is the reality, the truth. You see, there is only one truth. Don't think there are half a dozen truths around. There is only one truth. So, Atma Tattvam, and that truth is none other than you. That is Atma. Atma means it is none other than you. So, the human being is searching for the truth. All study of science is nothing but a search for the truth. And the social scientists, they are doing a lot of work. In doing so, they are searching for the truth. The religionist is searching for the truth. Everybody is in search of truth. But then, as long as you search for the truth, you won't get it. Because it is none other than you, Atma Tattvam. Therefore, for a change, stop searching for the truth and start looking at yourself. Try to be yourself. Because as you search for something, as you seek something, you are going out of yourself. You are moving away from yourself. In fact, we are experts in escaping from ourselves. That is the whole life we spend in escaping from what is. What is the reality, and we have all notions about what should be, and therefore the whole life becomes that of whole life is that of becoming, and never that of being. And so there is no truth in becoming. There is only truth in being. And that being is none other than you. Therefore, it is time to change the tactics of this search, and you have to search within, look within, be with yourself. Atmanyev atmana tushtaha, atmanyev atmanam pashyet shruti. So, Brihadaranyaka Shruti. So, atmanyeva atmanam pashyet. Atmanam, the ultimate reality. Pashyet, you have to realize. Pashyet means not seeing with eyes. So you have to discover and you have to realize it within yourself. Atmani. Atmani atmanam pashyet. Therefore, pratasmarami. This effort, it begins early in the morning. So first thing I do is try to contemplate upon that reality. You may call it Ishvara. You may call that reality God or Rama or Krishna. It is a nameless reality, Tattva. And hence, because Tattva, yesterday I was saying, Sakara Nirakara. Some people could not get the word. So I thought it was a simple word, it doesn't matter. So Akara means a shape, a form. So Sakara means that which has a form. And Nirakara, that which doesn't have a form. They are relative statuses. Once you talk of a form, then there is the idea of formless. The truth, it transcends the both descriptions. So when you describe it in terms of a shape, and then with reference to that description, when you say the reality is formless, both are descriptions only, really speaking, and the truth It transcends both the descriptions. So anyway, so sakara having a form or a shape, and a nirakara has no form. Tattvam is nirakara. Anaropitakaram tattvam. That was what I was saying yesterday. Therefore, the reality has no particular form. There is a reason for it. There is an epistemological reason to say that the ultimate reality, you may contemplate on a form. In the path of reaching the reality, you are welcome. In fact, you are advised to contemplate on forms. But when it comes to the truth, it is beyond all the forms. Anyway, so that is the tattvam. That tattva, the reality, is none other than you. We contemplate upon that reality in our heart. Hridi. Hridi smarami. So just that is the recap of what I said yesterday. Paramahamsa gatim. That reality is further expounded as Paramahamsa gati, and also Turiya. Paramahamsa gati means Paramahamsaihi gamyam. It is gained. You gain it. How do you gain? It is not like gaining a thing which is other than you, because the reality is not other than you. That is what we are saying, and therefore there is no question of gaining in the usual sense of the term. Nothing is coming from outside to you, from other than you, nothing is coming to you. So we gain it by knowledge. Praptasya praptihi. This is a very interesting thing. The Prakriti or the samsara, I am never connected with the samsara, but I have to know it. Why should I know? Because I assume that I am connected to the samsara. I am this, I am that, like that. In my ignorance, I connect myself to the samsara. The fact is, as Atma, I am never connected to the samsara, because asango hyayam purushaha. The Atma means your own innermost reality. Atma means don't think that something else it is. It is the innermost reality of yours, is never connected to the samsara. But we assume that we are connected to the samsara. When you say I am father, you are connecting yourself to the outside world. I am not saying you don't be all that. Just I am discussing at the epistemological level, right? So don't take it in a sentimental way. So if not father, other thing, whatever. So whatever name you give to yourself, you are connecting yourself to the samsara. The fact is that there is no such connection, because Atma is asanga. That's why we are able to sleep. If we are really connected, we will not be able to sleep. The fact that we are able to let go shows that in real terms, nothing is really attached to us. Anyway, therefore, the Paramahamsas, so here what you gain is all gained by knowledge. You know that you are not connected to the samsara. You know that you are asanga. And then you know that you are not the body, mind, etc. It is coming. You know that you are the Purna Atma. By knowledge, you gain it. And the one who knows this truth, he gains the truth. How by knowing the truth, how you gain? Because you happen to be the truth itself. That is how it is gained. Then the people who gain this knowledge, that means who gain this truth, who realize this truth, they are called Paramahamsas. Hanti ajnanam iti hamsaha. Paramaschaso hamsascha paramahamsaha. Here the gati or the gain, sometimes called yoga, it is not of the normal type, as I already said. Here to gain something is not termed yoga. So Yogameva santam yogamityachakshate. Bhashyakara in Kathopanishad he says, it is really speaking, it is Vyoga. Suppose you want Shanti. Shanti, you don't really gain it. It is enough that you dissociate yourself from Ashanti. Because we end up creating so much of Ashanti, so confusion and agitation around us, in us. You stop creating agitation, Shanti is natural to you, like silence. So how to create silence? You need not create silence. Silence is there. It is the truth. It is the being. What all you should do is stop disturbing it. Be silent. Be calm and quiet. Be silent. Then the silence is already there. So silence appears to have disappeared. It appears that it is not there only when we disturb it. We stop disturbing it, it is already there. Similarly, you stop being a samsari. You are the Purna Brahma then and there. You are already Purna Brahma, but in our attachment to the samsara, we lose sight of that reality. You see, once I was asked, where is moksha? Moksha is no one here. Suppose I am seeing this flower. So I am attached to the flower. There is a contact, samsparsha is there. The sense organ and the flower, the sense object are coming into contact. Now I project a notion that I like this flower. The flower doesn't say I like you. Only it is I who says I like you. Like that I say that I like the flower. It is a one-way traffic in any case. So I like the flower. You go ahead and like the flower. I am not opposing it. Just I am taking it as an example. Don't be sentimental again. So I like the flower. Now you need not like the flower. There is no need, because you say now I like the flower. For saying it sounds good, and for hearing also it sounds good, but you wait for 10 minutes, you will say I don't like this thing. The dislike is coming. It is not very far. And then when you say I don't like this, you will not feel good about it, and the other person who hears it also will not feel good about it. Therefore, so better not to like, not to dislike. Just leave things as they are. Okay, I like the flower, so now I am connected to the flower. That liking is the bondage which connects, I am attached to the flower. How long will I be attached to the flower? Oh, I love it, I like it, this is wonderful, that is wonderful. How long will you do it? 1 minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, then what will you do? Moksha ho gaya na abhi? So that is how it is. So your Swarupa is moksha. Only we mess it up, we spoil it, and we get attached to the things of the world, which is bandha. Therefore, bandha is kalpita, moksha is kalpita, and you have to know it. This is what is called hamsa, hanti ajnanam. He negates his ignorance, he overcomes his ignorance, and he abides in his swarupa. Such people are called paramahamsas. They are called yogis also in the context of Gita. A jnani is also called yogi, because yoga is used in the sense of jnanam in Gita. Anyway, so to gain something is not moksha here. It is not the yoga or moksha that we are talking about. Here, to reject everything other than Atma, that is the sannyasa. Sannyasa means relinquishing. Chitta tyaga eva samsara tyagaha. You have to relinquish the samsara, not in physical terms. In physical terms, how can anybody relinquish anything? So there is no question of relinquishing. Suppose there is a table. I have to relinquish the table. What is there to relinquish? There is nothing to relinquish. You just stop imagining that it is my table. You stop imagining. Over. The relinquishing already happened. When you say it is a table, it is not samsara. When you say it is my table, it is samsara. Therefore, chitta tyaga eva samsara tyagaha. So to reject everything, no exceptions again, other than Atma, all anatma is rejected. Is rejected means is negated. It is neither me nor mine. That is the sannyasa, and that is the yoga. This yoga is very difficult. This kind, even physically we can relinquish. I tell you, generosity at the level of hand is very easy. At the level of heart, it is very, very tough. At the level of hand, you take out a few dollars and give away. It is easy. But to understand that dollars, they are neither me nor mine. At the level of heart, generosity is very, very tough. And so, the Paramahamsa, he knows that none of this universe, nothing of this creation is me, nothing of this creation is mine. And in that relinquishing, in that sannyasa, he comes to know the truth. Paramahamsa gati. Paramahamsa gatim. Now, that is the Atma Tattva. And I contemplate upon that Atma Tattva early in the morning. Then another way of presenting this Atma Tattva, Turiyam yat swapna jagara sushuptam avaiti nityam. All that comes in one category. It is really speaking one topic. This Atma is Turiya, the fourth. Turiya is the fourth. Very simple word. It is a number. Ekanve, Trini, Chatvari, like that. So 1, second, first, second, third, fourth. Turiyam. So Turiya is when you say fourth, it is a relative statement only. It is not absolute. Suppose you say, this is the fourth. What I mean is 1, 2, 3, 4. In a particular way of counting, it is fourth. It is not that Turiyatvam, the status of being fourth, is intrinsic to it. There is nothing like that. So it is the fourth. Turiyam Trishu Santatam. This is Mandukya Karika. So the fourth, which pervades and interpenetrates the three. That kind of a fourth it is. So Santatam, Samyak Vyaptam, Tata Vyaptam. So it pervades and interpenetrates. I don't know even whether we can say permeates. You may say not permeates, pervades and interpenetrates. That is the Vyapti. So it is not like fire pervading a ball of iron. It is not that kind of Vyapti. Fire, heat or fire, it pervades the ball of iron. Suppose you take a ball of iron and put it in fire and leave it there for 2-3 minutes and then take it out with the tongs. Then the ball of iron is red. Why it is red? It is hot. Why? Because the fire has pervaded it. And suppose you look inside the ball of iron, suppose you break it into 2 pieces. Inside, at every pore, it is hot. At every particle, you feel the heat. Because the heat has pervaded every particle of, every atom or particle of this iron ball. That is one kind of pervading and interpenetrating. But that is not the Vyapti that we are talking here. Here, the Vyapti is of a different kind. So, Karanam Karye Anveti. That is the kind of Vyapti here. So, Karana, the cause, it pervades all the effects. In fact, it is the substratum, it is the locus on which the effects appear. That kind of a Vyapti here. So, Turiyam Trishu Santatam, the Atma, which is the fourth, it pervades and interpenetrates the three. What are the three? Yat Swapna Jagara Sushuptam Avaiti. The Atma is the one which knows, Avaiti. Namely, here Atma is presented as Kshetrajna. It knows. Here, knowing, another word for it is Sakshitvam. It knows while abiding as a witnessing awareness. And it is not only knowing, it is illuminating also. It is the illuminating, witnessing awareness. That is the meaning of Jna. That is the meaning of Avaiti. You see, there are 2 kinds of Mimamsa. Mimamsa means Vichara you do, the investigation or inquiry. One kind of Vichara is Karyakarana Bhavarupa Vichara. So you look at the world and see the effects and investigate the causes. That is a Karana Karya Bhava, Karana Karya Bhava Rupa Vichara. Suppose you have cooked rice and that is an effect before you. You want to know what is the cause. So the rice or the uncooked rice is the cause. And then again its cause is the paddy. And again its cause is the plant. And again its cause is the seed. So like that you go about investigating the causes of the effects that are found in the world. This is what we do. Whole life is spent on this job only. Why this is like this? Because of that, this is like this. So like that. This is one kind of vichara. Tarkikas do it. And then every branch of knowledge is like that only. The logicians do that. Then the scientists do that. The scientists, so they investigate the causes of all kinds of effects. Suppose the wind is blowing from this side to that side. So he is called a climatologist. He will try to find out why it is blowing this way. He has to wait for half an hour when it will start blowing into another direction, and then again he has to find the cause once again. So he has a lifetime job of finding the cause for the wind's blowing direction. They are called climatologists, and they have research centers, and they will be doing research in it. God bless them. Probably it has its own advantages and benefits. All that is there. But in Vedanta, we do not pay much attention to this. In fact, we say Vedanta is not about Karya Karana Vichara. It is not that kind of Mimamsa. Here the Mimamsa is Drug-Drushya Rupa Mimamsa. That is the Mimamsa. That is the Turiyam Trishu Santatam. Here you see, suppose you say, this is the Karya effect. The wind is blowing in this direction. What is the Karana? Some climate factors are there. That is the Karana. So both are Drushya only. So when you study Karya, you are studying Drushya. When you discover Karana, you are discovering Drushya only. Drushya means what is seen. The Drashta, the seer, is left out. He is not there in the picture. This is what is called objective world. The subject is left out. The subject is not taken into account at all. So this is called Karana Karya Rupa Vichara. We do it all our lifetime, we do it. And we feel fulfilled also. As we do this vichara, this investigation, and understand a few things here and there, we feel very fulfilled. All right, that is all. It has its own way of functioning. That's all right. But Vedanta is not that. In Vedanta, the vichara is drugdrushya vichara. That is the mimamsa here. So this is the karana. When you say karya, that is a drishyam. When you say karana, that is also drishyam. Where is drik? So from the point of view of drik versus drishya, what is the vichara? The vichara is like this. We have three states. In this drugdrishya situation, there are three states. One is the jagradavastha. Yat swapna jagara sushuptam avaiti. One is jagara. Jagara is the jagradavastha, the waking state. Then swapna is the dream state. And sushupti is the sleep state. Three states. In fact, let us do Panchakosha Viveka with reference to these three states. If you take the Jagradavastha, all the five koshas are functioning. Annamaya, the body, and the physical world is also Annamaya. But then body, we have the sense of I with reference to the body, therefore we call it Annamaya. Then Pranamaya, the breathing, etc., life. Then Manomaya, the mind, and the sense organs that go with mind. And then Vijnanamaya, the intellect. And Anandamaya, a sense of joy. Occasionally, there is a sense of joy. When you say the joy coming and going, the opposite of it, sorrow, is also there. Because there is joy, we know what is sorrow. Otherwise, if there is no joy occasionally, we would be very comfortable with sorrow itself. The scorpion, he doesn't know the ill effects of poison, because it has poison with it all the time. Similarly, if we have only sorrow in our life, then we will be extremely comfortable with that sorrow. But what happens is there is sorrow and there is joy, and there is a contrast. Anyway, so there is ananda in the waking state. Then coming into swapnavastha. So in swapnavastha, annamaya is not there. There is no body. Don't tell her that my neighbor knows that I am lying there. Your neighbor is also not there. When you are asleep, there is no neighbor, there is no other person, there is no body. Annamaya is not there. Prana is there. Manomaya is not there. Vijnanamaya is not there. But Ananda is there. Two koshas are there. That is a sushupti. Then swapna. Sushupti. What I said is Sushupti. Prana is there, Ananda is there. Three are not there. And then come to Swapna. Then what are they? What are there? Body is not there, Annamaya is not there, Prana is there, Manomaya is there, Vijnanamaya is there, Anandamaya is not there again. Okay, if you enjoy a few things in Swapna, then you can have Anandamaya also. So Annamaya is not there. So these are the three states. In one state, all the five koshas are there. Am I making it very difficult? Just bear with me for some more time, it will be over. So, and in Swapna we have a few less, and in Sushupti just two. Three states. You see, I tell you how. Suppose I live in Pennsylvania, they call me Pennsylvanian. Generally, people like to define themselves very much. They want to define themselves, I am this, I am that. They don't understand this basic truth that every time you define yourself, you are making an injustice to yourself and you are binding yourself. When I say I am a Dutchman, I am isolating myself from the entire world other than the Dutch, right? That is what is happening. That isolation, psychologically, I am isolating myself. And so I am not doing any service to myself. Therefore, because Atma, no single definition applies to Atma. Atma is beyond all definitions and all formulations. So this habit of defining oneself and formulating oneself, we should overcome that habit. Then only you will understand Atma. If you constrict yourself within the boundaries of particular definitions, then you will not understand Atma. You see Nirvana Shatkam or Dashashloki, if you see, you will understand. Shankaracharya, he thinks of all possible definitions and negates every one of them. That is the only way to gain the glimpse of Atma. Anyway, so as we define ourselves, we bind ourselves. Suppose I say, I am the Pennsylvanian while sitting here. Then I go to California, I am the Californian. Then I go back to Bharat. Now I am a Bharatiya or Indian. What is my true nature? What am I? Intrinsically, what am I? None of those three. I am something who interpenetrated all those three states and yet who is not any one of them, and in real terms who transcends all those three. This is what is called immanent and yet transcendent. That is what is called santatam, turiyam trishu santatam. So the Atma, it pervades the Jagrat, Swapna and Sushupti, giving existence to three states of experience, and in itself it is none of those three. You see, when it comes to Drugdrishya Vichara, there are a few points that have to be noted. Number one, Druk exists independent of Drushya. But Druk means the one who sees. Drushya means that which is seen. So between the seer and the seen, so the seer exists independent of what is seen, whereas seen doesn't exist independent of the seer. This is the law of Vedanta. So seen doesn't exist independent of the seer. So here if you look at the Jagrada Avastha, with reference to the waking state, what am I? What is my status with reference to the waking state? That is the point. You see, what we do is, what is the waking state? Waking state is a series of experiences. That is what it is. You wake up and the experiences start building up. And so one after the other, the sense organs interact with the world and bring in sensations. That is what the sense organs do. They don't do anything more than that. But the mind which receives these sensations is habituated to convert these sensations into experiences based on the earlier memory and earlier vasanas. And therefore, our interaction with the waking in the waking state with the world, it is in the form of a number of experiences at the level of the mind, and so a series of experiences. Whenever there is an experience, there comes up as a reflex an experiencer by the habit of the mind. The mind, what it does, when there is an experience, say, I see the flower. So here is an experience. The experience is the seeing of the flower. That is the experience. Immediately, the mind, it posits, it brings out as a reflex an experiencer. In fact, the moment you have the experienced, the opposite pole, it's a dipole, the opposite pole of experiencer also comes into the fore. Now you have the basic dipole of experiencer, experienced. That is the subject-object of the waking state. Now, where is Atma in all this? Atma means your own reality. Where is Atma in all this? You see, you can look at the experienced versus experiencer, or the object versus subject in a slightly different terminology. The object is the thing that is thought. You think of the flower, you see the flower means what? Seeing the flower means knowing the flower. How do you know? How do you know with the mind? What is the mechanism of mind knowing? The mind, it acquires the shape of the object that it knows. That is how the mind knows. So the mind thinks. Thinking is understood as knowing. Anyway, so here is the object that is thought about. Thought as a participle I am using, past participle. The thought, the thing that is thought. And the one who thinks it, thinker. Thinker, thought. Now, where is the place of Atma in this thinker-thought division, or subject-object division, or experiencer-experienced division? Where does Atma fit into this division? Atma is none of the two. Atma is not the object, obviously, but Atma is not the subject also. You should know that. That is the point. But in life, what happens? We identify with the subject, which is a product of the mind. Another name for the subject is ego, or small self, or the person. So it is the person who gathers the experiences, and he continues to pile up these experiences. This is what is called the waking state. And Atma is not the person. Atma is not the ego that gathers all these experiences. In fact, Atma is also part of the mind, and it is the mind which is gathering these experiences. Then you may ask, if the object is part of the mind and the subject is also part of the mind, then why there is a division at all? If both are located in the same mind, why there should be any division? That is what I am asking. So why there is division? Therefore, subject-object division is apparent. It is not real. Both are at the level of the mind. The same mind appears as the object. The same mind appears as the subject. And then where does Atma fit into this scheme? Atma, it is definitely not a part of the mind. Atma is the substratum on which the movement called mind takes place. So you can put it like this, to be in practical terms. Atma is not the thinker of a particular thought. Atma is the knower behind the thinker. It is the kshetrajna. It is avaiti, jagrat avaiti, jagaram avaiti. It is the witnessing, illuminating awareness with reference to the subject-object division, which is known as the waking state. That is how you have to look at it. You see, it is not enough to appreciate the distinction, the viveka between Atma and Anatma, that has to be appreciated. First you have to understand it. Shrotavyo mantavyo nididhyasitavyaha. You have to understand it. So what is it that you have to understand? Sir, you assume yourself to be the thinker of a given thought. You are not the thinker. Obviously you are not the thought. That means if you think of the part, are you the part? You are not the thought. You are not the part. Then what about the thinker? You are not the thinker also. The thinker, the small self, the ego, you are not that. So, but how it happened that I am not the thinker? It so happened because we identify with the mind. I identify myself with the mind. So, here we come to the crux of the problem. You are neither your mind nor your body. Am I sounding very ridiculous? Probably yes. Possible. I may sound very ridiculous, but I cannot help it. So I shudder to make this statement, but then I have to make this statement. I don't know how to what else to do. So you, sir, I am making this statement again. Sir, you are neither your mind nor your body. That is what it is. You are neither your mind nor your body. Where is the waking state? Waking state. Can you have a waking state without the body mind? No. In fact, the waking state, it is a conglomerate. It is constituted by the world, the waking body mind. So this waking body mind and the waking world, they are of the same order. You don't think that waking body mind is anatma and a waking world is a waking body mind is atma and waking world is anatma. Don't think like that. Waking body mind and waking world both are anatma. Then what is atma? The atma is the awareness, the light in which the waking body mind come into shine, and it is the light in which the waking world shines. Therefore, the Atma, it illuminates the waking world and also the waking body mind. It is neither the waking world nor the waking body mind. It is just the illuminator, the witnessing awareness with reference to the waking world and the waking body mind. This is the meaning of Jagaram Avaiti. You can easily appreciate this fact in the context of a dream state. There is a dream going on. In the dream, there is a dream world. And there is a dream subject. In the dream, in one of my dreams, I was a poet. In another of my dreams, I was an insect. But the fact is, I am neither the poet nor the insect. And then in the dream state, you have the subject-object division. This dream subject is there, dream objects are there, dream world is there. And then there is a dream sukha, dream dukkha. What is my relationship with this dream world? What am I with reference to the dream world? Am I the dream subject? No. You see, Janaka got a dream that he was a beggar. And he asked Yajnavalkya, who am I? Am I the beggar of the dream or am I the king of the waking state? Then Yajnavalkya told, you are neither. Because the king of the waking state is negated by the beggar of the dream and vice versa. You are neither of the two. So, am I the Californian or am I the Pennsylvanian or am I the one which gives existence to the concept of Californian as well as Pennsylvanian without becoming any one of them? What am I? So, with reference to the dream state, I am not the dream subject. And the subject-object division that appears in the dream state, it is not real. It appeared. Where did it appear? It appeared in I, the awareness. The subject-object division appeared in I, the awareness. And then now the I, the awareness, the Atma, the awareness is now, is it split into subject-object? No. When the hero and villain appear on the screen, is the screen split into two? No. Screen remains changeless. and yet makes the division appear upon it. Similarly, the Atma, it remains one without the second, the changeless reality, the underlying awareness, and on that underlying reality of the Atman, you have a subject-object division, you have a dream world, the Sukha Dukkha of the dream world, everything you have. Therefore, with reference to the dream world, with reference to the subject-object division of the dream world, Atma can only be described as the one that sustains, that upholds the dream world with all its divisions, that illuminates the dream world with all its divisions, and yet remains transcendental with reference to the dream world. It is not influenced or affected or contaminated by the opposites of the dream world. This is the meaning of Sakshi or Kshetrajna, so that Atma avaiti. Now apply this to Jagrat. Here you see sometimes what happens, in our enthusiasm to make things clear, we may end up making a little difficult. So possible. But what I am trying to say is not some speculation. It is not some armchair philosophy. What I am trying to say is a very, very practical Vedanta. That is what I am talking about. If you like it, you may say like that. It is a Vedanta which has a relevance. It is the truth which has relevance to every individual now and here. You see, what happens is, in our waking, we don't have much problem with the dream state, but people do have problems with the dream state, because we may not have that problem. Suppose you come across a person who is suffering from nightmares, you will understand then. The person is having a nightmare problem. It's a nightmarish problem really, because he cannot sleep. He is afraid of sleeping, and he cannot live without sleep, and he is afraid of sleeping. So, because the moment he goes into sleep, he gets the same dream, a similar dream, consistent dreams he gets, and he is afraid of those dreams. And then he starts believing that what he saw in the dream is somehow real. That is what a nightmare is. A nightmare is defined as a dream world which you assume to be real. That is how it becomes a nightmare. Therefore, if you come across such a person, you may laugh at him. What nonsense you are talking. You saw things in dream. They are not real. You should know this much. You come out of that imagination. Come out. You don't need any drugs. You don't need any medicines. You don't need any counseling. What all you have to do is just come out of your ignorance. What you see in the dream is not real. Go and sleep. That is what will you say. Right? No, in the dream a tiger was about to pounce upon me. Come on. That dream subject is not you. The one which was mauled by the tiger, that was not you. And the tiger also was not real. That is what you will say, right? The tiger was not real, and the subject that was mauled by the tiger was not you. That is what you will say. Then what am I? You are the underlying reality of that dream experience. You are not the real experiencer. So, don't get caught in the net of experiencer, experienced. You rise above both. You have to rise above both. You rise above the experience as well as the experiencer. Don't get caught in that experiencer. You are not that experiencer. You say this to this dreaming person from suffering from nightmarish dreams. That is what you say. And that is what Vedanta is saying to us. Because your waking state is in the context of Vedantic Avasthatraya Viveka is no different from dream. In fact, I tell you, Sarvepalli Radhakrishna, the great philosopher of India, he once remarked, if a person gets a dream consistently and continuously, the same dream day after day, with the same surroundings, more or less, and even our surroundings are changing, that kind of a change is okay. More or less the similar and the same surroundings, the same characters, the same objects. If he gets that kind of a dream consistently, then he will not be able to distinguish between the so-called waking state and dream state. He cannot tell which is real and which is unreal. We assume that waking state is real and all the experiences of waking state are real. And the waking state experiencer, that is the ego, that is I. That is how we assume and live. But this person who gets dreams consistently, he will not be able to distinguish which is the dream for him and which is the waking state for him. In fact, Sarvepalli Radhakrishnan, he has unearthed a candidate who fits into this description. He studied that candidate, a pot maker, very interestingly. The pot maker became the example. He was studied, and it was a recorded incident. In Sarvepalli Radhakrishna's books, you can see it. So, this pot maker, he becomes the king in the dream. And he is a poor pot maker in the waking state. And he was unable to decide what is myself. And after a time, he started believing that he was the king, not the pot maker. And the family members were perplexed at his attitude, because he was saying that my pot maker life is a dream life, and my real life is the king's life, the king's court and all that. So, is he a wise person? Not. We are similar. We are no different. So coming to the practicality of it, there are experiences of the waking state. You understand that these experiences are not real, they are apparent only. They are apparent. You go to a movie theater, you see many things on the cinema screen, movie screen. Do you assume that all of them are real? In fact, I tell you one point you may think of. You go to a movie theater. You see a movie. It may be a tragedy or it may be a comedy. A comedy will have many tragic events in between, all through the script. And a tragedy will have many comic events all through the script. It is a mixture, like life is a mixture of pleasure and pain. The movie is also a mixture of pleasure and pain. It doesn't matter how it ends. Whether it ends in comedy or ends in tragedy, basically it's a mixture of pleasure and pain. And you see that pleasure and pain. You see that movie. Are you adversely affected or do you enjoy it? Are you adversely affected by the opposites of the movie or do you enjoy it? What is the fact? You enjoy it. You are not adversely affected by the opposites of the movie. Why? What is the reason? You should think about it. What is the reason? You see, you don't forget that you get absorbed in the script. In the storyline, you get absorbed. And the events are very real to you. While you are going through that movie, they are very real to you. Suppose some chase, car chase or something is shown. You get so absorbed in that car chase that you feel very excited. All that is there. Total absorption is there. But yet, the opposites do not affect you. You are not disturbed by the opposites. Suppose the opposites, they affect you and you are disturbed, you will not go back to the movie theater again. And Hollywood will go bust. They are called dream merchants. The Hollywood people are called dream merchants. There is a novel by some author, Dream Merchants is the novel. So you enjoy it. You are not adversely affected, you enjoy it. Why? You know why? Because don't think that the movie is on the screen. Whatever is there on the screen, it is there on the screen. But the movie that you are enjoying is not on the screen. It is in your mind. It is on the screen of your mind. In fact, everything is on the screen of your mind. So, there is a world of opposites on the screen of your mind, and yet you are not affected by it. Why? On the other hand, you enjoy it. Why? You know why? Because there is this tremendous inner space. That is why. There is a space. You are here, and the screen of the mind, with all its opposite experiences, is before you. Not in physical terms. That space is there, and you are not affected. And even while going through the movie, even while you are absorbed in it, somehow you are on a different platform of reality. You are not on the same platform on which the experiences of the movie are happening. You are not on that platform. You are on a different platform. There is a space. There is a gap. There is a viveka. It is there. It is there in the background. Unwittingly, it is guiding you. And therefore, even if the movie is a very lengthy movie, like some of the Indian movies are, 3.5 hours movie, like Mughal-e-Azam, etc., of yesteryears, 3.5 hours movie with intense emotions. When it comes to portraying emotions, you come to Bollywood. Don't bother about Hollywood. They don't know how to portray emotions. You come to Bollywood, we will show you how to portray emotions. Really. Intense family dramas and emotions, they are portrayed. You are totally absorbing. Yet, somehow, you are not affected by all that. You are still able to enjoy the whole blessed thing you are able to enjoy. Why? That intense, tremendous inner space is there. Because you are the Sakshi there. Unknowingly, unwittingly, you are the Sakshi. You are the witnessing awareness. You are the illuminating awareness. The hero becomes a hero only when you call him hero, not because he is intrinsically hero or any such thing. You make him hero. You make the whole world what it is. When the world is sorrowful, you make it sorrowful. When it is pleasant, you make it pleasant. When there is harmony in the world, you make it harmonious. When there is disharmony, it is you who made it disharmonious in the first place. It is a projection of you. And if you know this, and stop identifying with the body-mind, if only you know the knack of not identifying with the body-mind, how does that happen? You should know. You should know that you are not the Jagrada Avastha and its experiences. They are apparent. There are quite a few things you should know. One, the experiences of Jagrada Avastha, like those of Swapna, the dream state, are unreal, number one. Are unreal, clearly unreal. Don't try to give some reality to them. That is the mistake we do. They are unreal. Unreal in the sense, they appear but not real. There is a law. What appears in time definitely disappears in time, and hence it is not real. The length of the time scale does not matter. It is not real. It is transient. And so what is that we have to do about it? Shri Krishna said, Tam stitikshasva bharata. Just bear with them, endure them and be done, they will go away. So that kind of an indifference, an aloofness with viveka, we develop with reference to the experiences of the waking state, number one. Number two, the most important thing is the subject, the ego, in whatever way you would like to call it, the small self, the persona, the me-mine persona is not real, and it is not you. That is the second. Third, nacha bhuta sanghaha. You are not your body. You are not your mind. You work on these four basic principles. The truth is already with you. You need not you need not go places to reach the truth. You need not move vertically to know the truth. The truth is already with you. These are the four basic points that we have to take into account. Don't take seriously your mind. Don't take your mind seriously. Very important advice. Don't take it seriously, because whatever the mind projects is unreal. Don't believe in it. Don't take it too seriously. It is very cunning and it tricks you all the way. And so, be watchful of the mind. Don't condemn the mind also. There is no, because in condemnation, there is the negative identification. In when you support it and when you go along with it, there is a positive identification. So this way, we develop that space with reference to the waking state. Dream state is not an issue for us. Dream state is indeed an issue for some people who are disturbed by their dreams. Once a dream comes to you, suppose, you just ignore it. Develop total aloofness with reference to it. You don't pay any attention to it. That is all. There is nothing to be done about it. Don't pay any attention to it. Then that dream is not an issue anymore to you, and any further dreams also will not be an issue for you. They will be coming and going, and you just forget about them. You are busy otherwise. Whereas, if you start giving some reality to the dreams, that mistake, it happens one day. For some reason, either somebody told a dream foretells this or that, or somewhere it has foretold something to somebody else, like that, some story, or some funny notion he puts in your mind, and so now you start giving importance to your dream. You know, giving importance to dream means what? Giving reality to dream. You are trying to get something out of the dream means what? You are giving a reality to the dream. Once you start making that mistake, these dreams will haunt you whole life. You will be struggling with those dreams. So some new dream will come, and now next day you are busy in assessing and analyzing that dream. Whole life becomes an analysis of the unreal things. Like they do analysis of the movie. Last year, all Hollywood movies, you collect and start analyzing them and write a thesis on it. So what happens? You may get a PhD on cinemology or whatever. You will get a PhD. But ultimately, what you have gained is nothing. In terms of reality, you have gained nothing. So, don't give reality to the dreams. Now, see whether this description of the dreams, what all I said about the dreams, see whether it equally applies to waking state. See, check for yourself whether it applies. Vedanta says it does. So, you think about it. Because in Vedanta, we do not put Atma vis-a-vis waking state on some different pedestal when compared to Atma versus dream state. We do not put like that. What we say is, so Atma, it is turiyam yat swapna jagara sushuptam avaiti nityam. So in swapna you are one kind of a person. In a waking state, swapna is a dream. In waking state you are another person. And in a sleep state, you are no person. You are a no person, right? You are something, but a no person. Why so? Because in a waking state, you identify with one body-mind and become a person, a particular person. In dream state, you identify with another body-mind, which appears real in the dream state. For the duration of the dream state, that body-mind appears real, and that person also appears real. It appears unreal only after you wake up. I mean, if you are ready for that. So, the waking state, dream, the person, body-mind identified person, the moment you identify with body-mind, a persona comes up as a reflex. A persona stands up. That all happens automatically. By habit, it happens automatically. And immediately, we take ourselves to be that particular persona, who is the me-mind. Same thing is there in the dream state. You are neither this person of the waking state, nor that person of the dream state, nor no person of the sleep state. Then what am I? I am an impersonal reality. Try to be the impersonal reality. Don't get carried away by the problems of the person, because the person is unreal and the person's problems are unreal. If you ask me, is it so much of armchair philosophy, or is it something which we can experience in our day-to-day life? My answer is, Vedanta is not speculation. It is not a philosophy of armchair kind. We are not interested in speculating things and proposing wonderful theories about consciousness, this and that. That is not the purpose. The purpose is, it is very practical. In fact, we should come to grips with it. We should develop that inner space. That is the purpose of Pratasmarana. The first thing in morning when I wake up, the first thing I contemplate upon is, this body I am not. Nacha bhuta sanghaha. I am not this body. This body is a conglomerate of the five senses, as much as any object of this world around is. This body is the hodgepodge of the nature around. It is not me, not mine. In fact, with reference to the body, I am taking another 5 minutes. So with reference to the body, we make 3 mistakes. Number 1, the body is me. Wrong. Number 2, the body is mine. Wrong. Number 3, The body is for my sake. Wrong. शरीर मैं हूँ, शरीर मेरा है, शरीर मेरे लिए है. All the three wrong. Body belongs to the nature. Body is like a bubble in the ocean of the five elements. Suppose you have a huge material spread all around. Then suddenly a bubble-like thing comes up from that. What is that bubble? What is the content of that bubble? The same material which is spread all around. That is what it is. Similarly, the nature, it is five elements, and it is all an ocean of five elements all around. And from that ocean of five elements, a bubble arises, and that is this body. So, it is the product of the food that is consumed. First by father, and then by mother, and then by itself. Not me, by itself. That is how the body has to be seen. And the mind is as much physical as the body. When we say nacha bhuta sanghaha, we are negating the mind also, because mind is also a conglomerate of the subtle elements. Subtle Prithvi. Gandha is there. Prithvi is Gandha. It is a mind which knows the smells, which knows the fragrances and the foul smell, etc. That is the Gandha aspect of the mind. Mind is Gandha in itself, therefore it recognizes Gandha. Mind is Rasa, therefore it recognizes Rasa. Mind is Sparsha, mind is Rupa, and mind is Shabda. So the subtle aspects of the five elements constitute what is called mind. And therefore when I say Nacha Bhuta Sanghaha, I am not the conglomerate of the five elements, it also means I am not the mind. You know what is mind? You think that the mind is yours, and you think the mind is you. Both are wrong. The mind is the waste basket of the society and the family. The family means the members of the family. They have put all their vasanas into this receptacle called mind. And the society has put all its values and standards and norms into this receptacle called mind. And you carry that mind around and say that it is yours. It is not yours. Every single word or thought, the word and thought go together. Shabdartha, the word and thought that is there in your mind is put there by somebody else. Now what kind of mind you are calling yours? Every single thought and word is put there by somebody else. And in fact, we end up with all kinds of concepts, notions and ideas, etc. And we assume that they are ours by identification with the mind. You hold on to your notions and concepts, because as long as the mind is there, they will be there. These things we will discuss in the next verse a little more. So they will be there, but don't identify with them. If there is an idea here, it is there. It is not me, nor mine, not for me, for my sake. It is there, that space, that inner space. Once I have that kind of an inner space, then I can consider or examine the ideas that are sitting in this basket, put there by somebody else only, and also the ideas that are there in other baskets also. It's okay. That's why Loko Bhinna Ruchihi, Mahakavi Kalidasa says, people have different tastes, because each mind is different. Each mind has its own ideas and idiosyncrasies. We can be playful with all that, provided we have a space with reference to our own mind. When we don't have space with reference to our own mind and we end up identifying with our mind, and so what all ideas are there in the mind, they are my ideas and they are me. Now you are in trouble. Because when the opposite idea comes before you, you get disturbed. And then we have expectations. The life should go on like this. The nature should function like this. Who are you to expect like that? The nature has its own course. And you should align yourself with the nature. No, today the weather should be like this. Arre, what is that? How can you say that? You cannot dictate the weather, should not. In fact, you should have a space in your mind, whatever may be the weather, I am okay. Mind is like weather. That is the example. Therefore, that kind of a space one has to get, Atma is neither the mind nor the body. It is neither the waking state that appears in the body-mind, nor the dream state that appears in a different set of body-mind, a different kind of body-mind. The same mind is projecting in a slightly different environment, and then the Atma is not even the no person. No person is a relative state. You are a particular person in the other states, and no person is relative to that. So, nacha bhuta sanghaha. I have concluded that verse. We will do the next verse in the next class. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om Tat Sat. Shri Krishna Arpanamastu.